right, we're live.
Welcome to the Utah Senate Legislative Update. We're on day 31, I believe, and we had some good debate on some House bills. It is a House day, and the Senate's addressing House bills until we run out of House bills. We really don't have anything extraordinary to announce, so we'll go right to questions.
So I'm guessing nothing extraordinary was decided on the Medicaid expansion issue last night?
We reviewed 4 different options, from no expansion to full expansion, the House proposal and Senator Shiazawa's bill, Senate Bill 251, and we couldn't come to a conclusion.
Is there any sense of where you're more leaning to, or which one you prefer? I know you haven't made a decision, but is there any kind of sense of what you like?
Well, I can tell you that full expansion is the option that probably doesn't have any support in the caucus.
Hopefully, eventually we will get there. I don't know about the majority caucus, but the minority caucus is already there. Democrats want to see this expanded.
And Democrats want full expansion.
Yes.
What's the time? What's the plan of attack going forward then?
Well, the plan of the attack now is to see if we have a 5th option, which will be announced, I think, here in the next hour and a half by the governor. Then that should really make it easy for us to decide. I'm just kidding.
Full expansion, January 1.
That will
That's a 5th
then
option.
inject now another dynamic into our discussion. When we found out that the governor was making an announcement today, I think that we wanted to wait before we had more. We wanted to wait and see what his proposal was before we come to a final conclusion as far as our Senate caucus was concerned. And that was part of the dynamic why we didn't have a decision last night.
And you've had talks with the governor's office, I understand, about this, and talked with House members. Do you have any sense of how hard it will be to get everyone on board within the next 2 weeks on an option?
I think it'll be pretty difficult because there's a lot of options and a lot of opinions. We went over the pros and cons of each proposal last night, and there are people all over the spectrum. Senator Okerlund, how would you characterize it?
Yeah, we had I thought, a great discussion last night. Went into tremendous detail. It was actually nice to have an evening meeting where we could have the time to go into the detail what we did last night on all of the options and answer questions from caucus. And it's a great caucus. We had a great discussion. And so I think we're getting to the point now where we understand, even with all the complexities of this discussion, I think we understand very well in the caucus what the options are. And so when we hear what the governor proposes and add that to the mix, I think we're very well prepared to then start making a decision.
Any other questions?
You were in attendance last night at the LGBT meeting with legislators. I was wondering, what was your general impression of some of the stories you heard, and how does that inform what you do as a legislator?
I thought the stories were great, and I think it highlights for me a discussion I had with a friend of mine years ago who came forward and mentioned that he was gay, and we talked for quite some time after that, and boy, that was just an eye-opener for me to try to I came to the conclusion that day that this just isn't something that's made up by somebody. These are deep-seated feelings and more than feelings. And I concluded that, and have had a lot of interactions over the years, and so having that discussion last night, being able to have the openness, the ability to hear those stories, I thought was profound.
So it sounds like it did change your perspective a little bit.
Well, I had already had that. I had had that perspective changed years ago. I mean, this has been 20 years ago, and I've had a lot of interactions over the years, and it just again reconfirms for me that this is, you know, very difficult for folks that are in the LGBT community, and I'm hopeful, as I said last night, that we will have more respect and more love and more kindness and compassion and patience, not only for the LGBT community, but they need to also have that same patience with us as we're trying to navigate this, and we need to navigate it together, and having more of those opportunities to, as we mentioned last night, to break bread together will only help as we come to a better understanding on both sides of this issue.
Are we expecting new revenue projections tomorrow?
Tonight? They're going to be working on it at 4 o'clock this afternoon, and they very wisely exclude all politicians. So I will not be there, nor the governor there. These two staffs with their independent experts will then dialogue with, and imagine, they're trying to figure out what the revenue is going to be 18 months from now. It starts in July and goes until June of 2015. So, and they've done an excellent job over the years, remarkable how they've done that. And so that will be their job. We hope to, well, we plan on announcing at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning on the floor, 10:15. Governor likewise will make his announcement at the same time, and then the reality starts. And it isn't very hard when you figure there's $204 million currently of ongoing revenue, and if we fund growth in public education and fund the WPU at 2.5, that's $125 million of it. And if we treat our state employees and higher ed comparable, it's about another 25. So there's $150 million off the table to start with. That's before you start talking about computer programs, other programs in public ed, higher ed's equity issue, the mission, AR&I or capital improvements in infrastructure and general government. Those are just some of them. So it's a reality time. And we put the budgets together.
So we won't know until tomorrow when we read it in the paper.
No, you hear it on the radio station.
Okay.
Can you tell us one more time? I think it was it 800 million in requests that you've had?
It's over 800 million in requests. And again, it's amazing because many requests they received, they didn't grant. These are just the ones they approved. So, and I'm having, in fact, I was on the floor 15 minutes ago, and I had somebody come up to me and say, oh, we didn't get this request in, you got to add it to the request. And so we're hearing almost daily of people who are either asleep at the switch, thought it'd get handled, somebody else was going to handle it, and it's not even part of our calculations. So I have to be sympathetic and say, glad to hear and see what we can do to help you, but I don't think getting money now is going to be much of a chance.
It's the, maybe this is a question for both, either, well, I guess you're also on EAC, all of you, but the, what's the weighing balance, or how do you go through that 800 million and say yes and no? Like, what's the judgment line on that?
We leave that up to Senator Hilliard
And he just
and
goes no.
Senator Stevenson, actually. Senator Hilliard will say all the
yeses and
all the yeses go to him, and all the noes go to Senator Stevenson.
Right now it's about 1 to 10, and I'm winning.
Let me answer how we do that, which I think is really a remarkable thing. We have our committees hearing testimony and making recommendations. And I want to compliment several of them. One in particular is Health and Human Services. I think Senator Christensen and Representative Menlove have done an outstanding job. They've reallocated money within their committee. They've addressed lots of needs and lots of there. The other one is Representative Hutchins and Senator Thatcher with executive accords. I think when you look at their prioritizations, so what Senator Stevenson and I and Representative Brown and Representative Wilson will do is meet with these co-chairs together and say you have a prioritization list of say $20 million and you've got a list of items there. Assume we only have 5. Tell us how best to spend that $5 million in your committee. And I generally have a practice go around and visit with the Democrats. I think Senator Davis will say I've done that in the past, and say, is there anything really on this list that you feel like you've been neglected for? And you know, I jokingly say I'm not going to move the University of Utah to Moab. Don't ask me to do that. But there's many things that we can work out together. But I don't think I've ever seen a budget I put together this challenging with so many big rocks, as I've described them. And you know, we have to come to a conclusion about Medicaid, what that cost is going to be. We have to come to a conclusion about the speaker's 1-2-1 program. What are we really going to do about technology change in public education? We have to face some higher education issues, the equity issue that they're arguing about. And the uncertain thing we have is that we don't know really what the future has to hold. We can guess and take an estimate of the revenues, but I've said I don't mind a pilot program if I'm going to build a cabin and add to it. So I got a cabin. But a pilot program, I don't want to have a bridge so that I get a third of the way across the river and stop. And so when we look at pilot programs, at least I look at it in those eyes, and again, a lot of this is done by our committees. And there's obviously some, when you get right down to it, the governor's going to want some things that we haven't prioritized, and I think that'll be the discussion with the governor to see what and how, and that's, it's a remarkable process, really, quite simply, because every legislator, Republican, Democrat, House Senator, serves on one of these subcommittees, and I suspect that Senator Davis can tell you as much about his committee as the chairman can. And I think
we balanced it.
Yeah, that's right.
We found the money.
Spent all the money. But I think that's a unique thing about Utah, and I think one thing that I hope is a legacy here, that when I leave, that the legislators will still keep control of their budgets and let them feel part of it.
You mentioned the $200 million in ongoing. Remind us how much the committee's found that's available.
I'm going to go by memory, and it seems to me that they found about 31 million ongoing and about 160 million one time. Good example of part of that is in, I think, your committee, Senator Davis. They found $8 million that was going into health issues that, because of Obamacare, changed that. You didn't have to put that $8 million in. So that's where they found $8 million.
And that, if I remember right, that hasn't been re-spent, I guess, right?
The committee reallocated it.
That's what I was saying. We did that. If that was the $8 million savings was the actually a bill that I passed back when, and that's the risk pool that we created, the high risk pool, because under ACA that goes out of business. And so what we were expending into that became dollars that could be reallocated.
So if we're talking about how much, after tomorrow, if we're talking about how much you'll have to spend, we shouldn't include the roughly $200 million that you found from the base budget.
Right. We'll calculate it as we put things together, as we come to budget. But one-time money that I think of immediately was the infrastructure and general government found that when we built the UVU building, as I recall, there was $5.4 million unspent. And they captured that money and brought it back in to spend. And I think one thing is, again, I'll compliment Jonathan Ball, our fiscal analyst, with this Carly program that he has now and chasing back. I think we've been able to find funds that we didn't know we had. That are just, I mean, the agencies knew them, but I'm repealing a whole bunch of accounts found one that had $26,000 in it. It goes back to the cities. It's the old 1/64 cent sales tax that was created with the infamous House Bill. Let's see, where's Bob Burnett? You'd remember this. House Bill 13 by Lamont Richards in 1983.
Flood tax.
The flood tax.
Wow,
I don't know
good memory.
if anyone here would be able to knows the answer to this, but did the appropriations have Health and Human Services take into account the added costs in Medicaid for what they call the woodwork effect? Those who now sign up for Medicaid who weren't before but are required under the law now.
My understanding they have, and they have an estimate figure on that we've now worked in, taking the adjustments because we had overestimated, and so that came back in. If I remember the figure, it's $13 million, but that's the net figure to us after taking consideration some of the other funds they found.
So they've taken care of that though, in
their budget, they've proposed the way to take care of it. So all of these committees just make recommendations to executive appropriation.
Well, and partly, if I remember right now, I'm on the Social Services Committee. Well, not I was able to attend because of my responsibilities as president, but there's still a forecast of how much we're going to need for ongoing, which I think would take into consideration the woodworking effect, and that will be part of this announcement tomorrow. And so we've got a figure out there of what we're going to need to cover those who in the woodworking effect or who newly become eligible for Medicaid. That's all in that forecast for next year, and we understand that forecast is going up from its previous forecast, so we'll probably have less money.
We started out with $48 million one time in that committee. Our analyst tells us they expect it's much less than that, but they need to work out the consensus with the governor to see where they finally pinpoint that. But again, it's a moving target. That makes it very difficult to do budgets.
Another reason to do expansion. Because it's a 90-10 split instead of a 70-30.
100 right now.
100% for the next couple of years. That's right.
Do we have any text questions?
Not today.
Jason isn't going to text us today.
I bet he's watching.
Okay.
Just in case for the agenda, we will announce the new revenue figures first thing tomorrow morning at 10 on the floor. The governor will have executive appropriations at noon, and I think that will be only to approve the new revenue figures. And then we're going to start in earnest trying to work out some budgets. And there's two ways to do it, and I don't have any idea. One, what we're going to do this year. One way is as we come to agreements on sections, we could have executive appropriations and approve those as we go along. And that way you get the sure ones and you get down to the narrow, smaller as you run out of money. The other kind is wait and do it all at once. And we have a target of next Friday, week from tomorrow, we got to be done. Or we stay here night and night and night.
I'm hoping to be done by Thursday.
Got 14 days to zip it up.
It's good to have a goal.
Yes, right.
Okay, any other questions? Thanks, everyone.